Look at her. 28 years old, sitting in a car she hasn't turned off yet, parked outside a house she's afraid to walk into. She apologizes to people who aren't even in the room. She checks her phone for a message she knows won't come, and feels a flicker of relief when it doesn't, and then, a second later, misses it so badly it frightens her. 14 months ago, this same woman was the most confident person in any room she entered. She laughed loudly. She trusted her own decisions. She knew, without checking, what was real and what wasn't. So how does someone like that disappear completely? Not in one dramatic blow. Not in a single bad night you could point to. But slowly. Quietly. In slow motion, one tiny surrender at a time, until one ordinary morning she looks in the mirror, and a stranger looks back. Stay with me through this. Because if you watch exactly how it happens, step by step, you will never miss it again, not in someone you love, and not in yourself. Her name is Ella. And to understand how she vanished, we have to go back to the very beginning. To the night that didn't feel like the start of a nightmare at all. The night that felt like the best night of her life. Stage 1. The flood. They met on a Tuesday. By Friday, he was telling her she was the most interesting person he had ever met in his life. By the end of the second week, he was already talking about the future, the trips they would take, the city they would live in, the wedding his mother would cry at. And he remembered everything. The exact coffee order she'd mentioned once in passing. The name of the dog she had as a child. The story about her father she'd never told anyone on a first date. Being around him felt like being seen, truly seen, for the first time in her entire life. And that feeling was so intoxicating, so complete, that she never once stopped to ask the only question that mattered. Here is the first move, and I need you to notice it, because almost nobody catches it while it's happening. Real love builds. It is slow. It is a little awkward. It tests the water, makes small mistakes, and earns trust gradually over months. What Ella was feeling was not love building. It was a flood. Too much, too soon, too perfect to be real. And a flood does not water a garden. A flood drowns it. When a person tells you that you are their soulmate before they know your worst fear, before they have seen you tired, or unreasonable, or ordinary, they are not falling in love with you. They are studying you. Every little detail he memorized was not tenderness. It was reconnaissance. He was drawing a map of you, your wounds, your hopes, the exact places you most wanted to be touched, and a map is not made by someone who wants to know you. A map is made by someone who wants to navigate you. Stage 2. The web. And then, so slowly that she never once chose it, Ella's whole world began to shrink. It started in a way that felt, at the time, like the deepest kind of love. Why would you spend Friday night with your friends, he'd say, smiling, when we could just be together, the two of us, away from everyone? They don't really understand you anyway, and not the way I do. He never forbade her from seeing anyone. He never raised his voice about it. He simply made every other person in her life feel like a small betrayal of him. A coffee with a friend came with a cost, a quiet sulk, a distance she had to work to close. And meanwhile, the beautiful future he had painted kept arriving, and then dissolving the moment she reached for it. The trip got postponed. The apartment became a someday. The plans got vaguer every time she asked. But the painting was so vivid, so close, that she kept reaching for it anyway. Now watch this part carefully, because this is how isolation actually works. It almost never looks like a locked door or a raised hand. It looks like devotion. It looks like a man who just wants you all to himself because he loves you so much. By the time Ella realized her friends had stopped calling, the truth was worse than that, she had stopped calling them first. She'd let the messages sit. She'd cancelled one too many times. She was alone now, alone with him, and the most chilling part was this, she had built the cage herself. One loving brick at a time. And that is precisely the design. Because a cage that someone else locks you in, you spend every day trying to escape. But a cage you built yourself, out of love? That one, you defend. Stage 3. The first crack. And then, on one completely ordinary evening, no fight, no warning, no reason she could find, the warmth simply switched off. Like a light turned off at the wall. He went cold. Distant. Polite in a way that was somehow worse than anger. And Ella did the most human thing a person can do. She panicked. She lay awake replaying the entire day, frame by frame, searching for the things she had done wrong. She apologized for things she couldn't even name. She made herself smaller, softer, more agreeable. She worked, suddenly and desperately, to earn back a warmth that 2 months ago had simply been there. And when it finally returned, when he softened and smiled, and the soulmate came back, the relief that flooded through her was so enormous that it felt, for a moment, like pure joy. Here is the move. The cold drop was never him losing interest in her. The cold drop is training. Without a single explicit word, he was teaching her a new and terrible rule, that his warmth is not something she is simply given anymore. It is a reward. Something she now has to earn and re-earn and never quite feel safe about. And the instant you begin earning a person's basic kindness, the moment their warmth becomes a prize instead of a baseline, you have handed them the thermostat to your entire nervous system. You no longer have a partner. You have a weather you are always trying to survive. The woman who used to walk into rooms like she owned them had, without noticing the day it happened, become someone who flinched at the sound of a closing door. Stage 4. The fog. This is the cruelest part, so I need you to watch it closely, because it is the part that does the deepest damage and leaves no mark at all. It began with the smallest things. That's not what I said, he'd tell her, gently. You're remembering it wrong. You always do this. You're being far too sensitive. Tiny corrections to her own memory, so quiet, so reasonable sounding, that she barely registered them as they happened. But they stacked, day after day, week after week. She started writing things down, actual notes, on her phone, just to check herself later. She'd replay a conversation a dozen times, trying to find solid ground, and find none. The most certain, clear-headed woman she had ever known had slowly become someone who no longer trusted her own mind. Now understand what is actually happening here, because it is not what it looks like. It looks like petty arguments about who said what. It is not. The goal was never to be right about the restaurant, or the phone call, or the thing that was or wasn't said at the party. The goal, the entire goal, is to make you doubt your own memory so completely, so consistently, that he becomes the only reliable narrator of your life. Think about how total that power is. Once you genuinely cannot trust your own perception of reality, you have no choice left but to trust his. And whoever controls your version of what is real, controls you completely. There are no walls needed anymore. No locks. This is the fog. And somewhere inside it, Ella lost the one thing no one should ever lose, the ability to tell the difference between what actually happened and what she had been told happened. Stage 5. The bond. Now here is the question that every single person watching this is asking right now. The same question her friends asked, the few times they got close enough. Why didn't she just leave? She's intelligent. She's strong. She had somewhere to go. So why on earth did she stay? Hold on to that question, really hold it, because the answer is the entire trap, and once you understand it, you will never ask it of anyone again. By this point, Ella's life had become a weather system. There were days of cold so sharp she could barely breathe through them, and then, without warning, out of nowhere, a sudden burst of the old warmth. The soulmate, back again. The man from that first golden week, looking at her like she was the most interesting person alive. And here is the thing nobody prepares you for. Every time that warmth returned after the cold, it did not feel like simple relief. It felt like the single greatest feeling on earth. Better than the original. Because now it came with the flood of a body that had been braced for pain, suddenly released. Here is the mechanism, and this is the engine that drives the entire machine, so listen carefully. Your brain is not built to bond most strongly to the people who treat you consistently well. It is built to bond most violently to unpredictable reward. Warmth, then cruelty, then warmth again, on a schedule you can never predict. It is the exact same wiring as a slot machine. It is the precise reason a gambler cannot walk away from the one machine that has taken everything from him, because it pays out just often enough, just randomly enough, to keep him chained to the lever. Ella was not weak for staying. Let me say that again, because somebody watching needs to hear it. She was not weak. She was bonded, chemically, neurologically, against her own will, to the very person who was hurting her. And the cruel genius of it is this: the worse it got, the harder she held on. The more he hurt her, the more desperately her own brain craved his warmth back. That is not a flaw in her character. That is the trap, working exactly the way it was built to work. Stage 6. The drop. And then, after everything she had given, after she had rearranged her entire self around keeping him happy, it ended the way it almost always ends. Not with a conversation. Not with a reason. Just a coldness, one more time, except this time it did not thaw. The warmth did not come back. And then she understood why. There was already someone new. Someone being flooded right now, this very week, on some ordinary Tuesday, being told she is the most interesting person he has ever met, having the map of her drawn one detail at a time. Ella was discarded. Set down and walked away from like she had never mattered at all, like 14 months of her life had been nothing. And the part that nearly broke her was this: some small, exhausted corner of her felt relieved. And then she hated herself for the relief. Here is the truth she could not possibly see from inside the wreckage. The discard was never, ever about her not being enough. You cannot be discarded for a flaw, because your flaws were never the point. He was never once measuring her worth. He was measuring her usefulness, how much warmth, how much supply, how much of her life he could still extract. And when the supply finally ran low, he did the only thing people like him ever do. He simply changed machines. But there in that car, in that dark, parked outside a house she was too frightened to enter, Ella did one small thing. One quiet, enormous thing. The phone lit up. And she did not reach for it. She let it ring out into silence. And that tiny, trembling refusal, is the exact moment the slow erase finally stops, and a human being begins, slowly, to come back. Stage 7. The return. Because they always come back. Always. And the timing of it is the final tell, so watch it. Just as Ella started sleeping through the night again. Just as an old friend she'd let go started answering her texts again. Just as she caught the faintest, fragile glimpse in the mirror of the woman she used to be, here the message arrived. I've changed. I've done a lot of thinking. I miss you. I know I wasn't perfect. Read the timing, because the timing tells you everything. The return never comes when you are falling apart. When she was at her lowest, he was gone, silent, untroubled. It comes the precise moment you begin to heal, because your healing is the supply walking out the door, and that, more than anything, is the one thing he cannot allow. This is called the Hoover, named for exactly what it does. It is a vacuum. It pulls you back in at the very edge of your freedom, right as you reach the door. And here is the only thing that has ever ended it, and it is not a clever reply, or a final confrontation, or the closure of one last conversation where you finally explain how badly he hurt you. He does not want your closure. He wants your response. The only thing that ends it is silence. The one currency he was never, ever able to counterfeit. So let me tell you what this actually was, because giving it its true name is the beginning of being free of it. It was never love. Love does not require you to disappear. Love does not run on a thermostat. What Ella lived through was a cycle, with a name and a shape and an order that almost never varies: the flood, the web, the first crack, the fog, the bond, the drop, the return, running on a person who learned, somewhere long ago, to experience other human beings not as people to be felt, but as resources to be used. And here is the part one most need you to carry out of this video, because it changes everything. People like him do not target the weak. They never have. They target the empathetic, the loyal, the forgiving, the ones who try the hardest and assume the best and stay long past the point anyone else would. Ella was not chosen because she was a pushover, or naive, or broken. She was chosen because she was warm enough to keep a cold man feeling something. Her warmth was not the weakness. Her warmth was the resource. So if you are watching this and your stomach is in a knot right now, if you recognized the flood, or the fog, or the impossible, gravity-like pull of a person who hurt you and somehow still hurts to be without, then please, hear this as clearly as I can say it. You were not stupid. You were not weak. You were not too much, or not enough. You were conditioned, patiently, deliberately, by someone who studied exactly how to do it. And the single thing that made you a target in the first place, that warmth, that capacity to love someone through anything, is the one thing they were never actually able to take from you. Getting out, though, that is only the first step. Because here is what nobody tells you, what Ella had no idea was waiting for her. The hardest part is not the leaving. The hardest part is the coming back. Coming back to your own mind after someone spent months teaching you not to trust it. Coming back to a body that still braces for a cold that isn't coming anymore. Coming back to a life that, somewhere underneath all of it, is still yours. That is a whole journey of its own, with its own map, its own stages, its own way out. And it is the journey we walk together from here. The recovery series begins where this story ends, on the day the fog finally lifts. If any part of this was you, or I'll see you there.